Oh, okay. Balloon, can you put Mike Wilson's TikTok here and we'll get everybody to follow him? It's at Sweets Wilson. Balloon 2 earring.
Maybe because I'm live.
All right,
Okay,
Tamara, I'm going to
Balloon,
hang up
can
with
you
you
put
because
Mike
I'm going
Wilson's
into
TikTok here
YouTube.
and we'll get everybody to follow him. It's at Sweets Wilson. Balloon 2 earring.
Bye.
Because I'm live.
Thank you for your help.
All right, Tamara, I'm going to hang up with you because I'm going into TikTok YouTube. We'll get everybody to follow him. It's at Sweets Wilson.
Do you hear a little echo going on?
Earring.
Yes.
Thank you for your help. All right, Tamara, I'm going to hang up with you because I'm going into TikTok YouTube. We'll get everybody to follow him. It's at Sweets Wilson.
So I have to figure out,
A little echo going on.
there's a way to turn one thing off. Hold on.
So I have to figure out.
We have been a misunderstood.
Oh, geez. Oh, I know what it is. You have to turn the volume. I mean, you can clearly tell that I don't mind being messy.
Yeah.
So I
Love
think I have to turn off the volume in either YouTube or here, right? Because we're live on YouTube.
Oh, great.
Mike Wilson and Kate Duffy, we're live on YouTube. And I need a moment of grace to figure out what I'm supposed to mute. I think I'm going to mute the YouTube one because I have to see you here. Let me go here. I can't mute my laptop, but I know I have to mute something.
Is to figure out what I'm supposed to mute.
Okay. I just muted my desktop YouTube.
So we're hoping it worked.
I'm going to keep the live on over here because we can give your, so let's just take a moment. I need a moment to just settle in. So if you're following on TikTok, we're on YouTube and I'm going to keep you up here. I don't know if that's going to be helpful or annoying, but go to YouTube, find us on YouTube at Tipping Point Recovery. And for sure on the live, we want to say throughout this live, Mike, and let's see how fast we can get up your followers. We want to say, go to at Sweets Wilson on TikTok and follow, because that way, Tamara's asking to come back in. I'm going to actually accept this to see. She might have, oh no, it was an invitation. Never mind. All right, Tamara, scratch that. All right, Mike.
Yes.
Thank you on a Saturday for being with me on intervention. So I have actually a format. Good thing you said, let's test it out early because we needed that time. So we'll make this available. I'll edit out that messy first part and we'll make this available on TikTok as well as Facebook, as well as YouTube, because my passion is to help people understand what an intervention is.
Yeah.
And one of the things I was thinking of this morning that I think, let's start with this, because you've talked to thousands of families. What are some of the things that people do themselves? He has to go live on his phone, not his laptop. He is on his phone. Tamara, he's still not able to come onto YouTube live, I don't believe.
TikTok live.
TikTok live. Yeah. All right. So Tamara, if you can stick around and put in the chat, in the comments, what we're doing here and why I'm talking to this way when I'm on TikTok, because it might be weird. You want to pop that in every now and then. What you can say is we're having a conversation around intervention and we're on YouTube live. Yeah. All right. So Mike, what are some of the things that people do to try to intervene themselves that you've heard?
I think every family starts by trying to intervene themselves. I mean, if you think about the word intervention, it's really just you trying to get between one person and their destructive behavior, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, it could be something as simple as smoking cigarettes, and you come to somebody and you, hey, listen, have you thought about the health risks? Have you thought about how this affects other people? Have you thought about the third-hand smoke or fourth-hand smoke? And if not, would you consider that a good reason to stop? I mean, that in itself is an intervention, right? So when we hear that word, I think a lot of people think of the TV show, they think of the formal structure, but in reality, just an intervention is people coming to another person and trying to offer them a way out, trying to offer them some advice or direction. The problem is that most family voices have been muted over the years, and so they're no longer effective, right? There's so much toxicity in the family. There's so much history. There's so much behind every word that's said that when a family member comes to another family member, very often they can't hear them anymore, right? So the idea of bringing a third party in and having somebody do something like that, we get to change how the family says what they say. We get to change their approach. We get to change the format for the conversation. Instead of saying, you need to get help, we can bring help to the table and say, would you be willing to try this? Instead of yelling and arguing, which is pretty typical based on the level of emotion, we can come in and have a fairly even tone, a respectful conversation. We can give somebody the space to freak out in an intervention and get mad and cry instead of having the whole emotional temperature of the room rise. You have a third party leading the intervention where they're not emotionally compromised. They're able to stay focused and keep everybody on track, answer difficult questions, give some insight into the treatment experience. But I think every family starts there because why wouldn't you? Yeah. Right? If it was my family member, I'd come right up to them and be like, dude, what are you doing? Have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? And then we might get into an argument about it, or I might say nothing. But if I can't do it and collectively we can't do it, then I need somebody else to step in and tell us what to do differently.
Right. So I'm settled into what we're doing here right now. Thank you for that segue. I have one question about mistakes we make as a family. I'm going to share one personal one that I made, and I want you to talk about how and why it wasn't a good idea from your angle. But I first want to say I have flipped my camera and we're on TikTok.
Okay.
Because there's always a way. And so we're on YouTube Live, but we're also on TikTok because it's my intention to get Mike to get up to 1,000 followers so that he and I can go live, because we have a lot to share. We're working together, educating and supporting families around this. And it's a game changer because the way we're doing it in partnership needs to be seen by more people. So I'm just letting you know that we're also on TikTok. It's looking at my screen. And so that's really good news. So if you're watching this, you want to go to @SweetsWilson. We want to push Mike up to 1,000 followers as fast as possible so we can be on one device. But one thing I did, and before I studied with you to be an interventionist, one thing I did was I staged an intervention. I was a few years sober and everybody wrote letters and it was super emotional. And we did make an ask for someone to go to treatment. I'll say what happened, and then I'd love you to speak to, in general, obviously, maybe not because you don't know all the intricacies of the situation, but like why this wasn't a good idea and why it didn't get me the result is, first of all, as the sober person myself in my family, everyone was saying, well, you just think everyone's an alcoholic. And I wasn't the best person. So I'm already saying a little bit about why I wasn't the best person to do it. I'm emotionally invested in these people and they and me. And so it fell apart. It didn't go anywhere. The person didn't go to treatment and it wasn't a big problem, but it didn't get me the result I wanted. So you can just speak to, in general, when families do this on their own like that, why is that usually a typical result?
Well, usually they tap or task the most likely individual, right? So in this situation, like with you, I had a family member that was struggling. I myself am in recovery. And so when the time came, everybody in the family looked to me. Mike, can you help us with this? And I was like, I can try, and I rose to the occasion. A, because I'm in recovery, I do what's asked of me. B, I care about the situation and I'm knowledgeable. And then C, there was nobody else in the family to do it. So I almost felt a sense of obligation to step in, even though I'm not the right person, which I'm sure you felt the same. And, I did exactly what I do for other people. I got everyone else prepared. I was the one in charge. I was leading the meeting. And wouldn't you know it, I'm the one that showed up and was yelling and screaming and had to be carried out of the intervention because I'm full of passion and emotion and there was nobody else in charge.
Yes.
It's obvious when you look around the family system. You just look at who you have. Who do we have in the family that could help us do this thing? And some people pick either the person in recovery, or maybe they pick the loudest, the type A, whoever, they look in the family, who could help us do this. And so it's kind of like, you're just picking the best out of the people you have available, when there's definitely a more qualified, capable, non-emotionally compromised third party that could do a better job.
Right. So you and I are both big with analogies. And as you were sharing that, I was thinking, what's an analogy? And I immediately went to a plumber. What's different about, someone in the family doing a job in the family home that has a trade skill is there's no emotion involved. You're just fixing a pipe, and actually there is emotion involved, right? Because when it goes sideways, because you're not a plumber, there's a lot of emotion. And so we just owe ourselves as families professional guidance. So let's go to, I want to get your take on, and sometime during this chat, we'll talk about how we work together, because that's what I think is really powerful that we landed on. But I want you to talk about, just in general, answer the question, what is an intervention to you? Somebody says, I watched the TV show Intervention. I don't want to do that. Or he doesn't want to get sober. So how can you help people understand what is an intervention?
All right. So before I do that, I just want to say one thing. You're asking all these people to follow me.
Right. Let's start about who are you?
Well, it's my own personal page. So it's Mike Wilson, @Sweets Wilson. You're going to see a whole bunch of videos of my dogs, because I don't really use this platform. So please enjoy that. But I do just want to say, I have been doing interventions since 2009. All right. And one of the reasons I do this is because, and I think it's very similar to why you do this, Kate, is that, we want things to be available to our families that weren't available in the past, or that they didn't have access to. We want them to have access to things like this on new technology platforms, so that they can make better decisions. Right. Mm-hmm. And for a long time, people looked at intervention as this big organized clinical approach, or made for TV, or you see it in movies, or whatever. There's been interventions for a very long time, but I think interventions have to change too, right? Like, we're on a new platform, we're on TikTok, we're on YouTube Live, we're trying to reach people laying in bed on a Saturday morning, scrolling while they're drinking their morning coffee. Whatever it is, we're trying to reach people when they wouldn't otherwise be looking for things like this. Mm-hmm. And so we have to change along with the times, right? Interventions for a very long time were seen as just this circle of people in a room, reading letters, trying to make people feel guilty and shameful enough to go to treatment. Everybody's crying. It's this big, heavy emotional thing. And in the end, if they don't go, you got to kick them out. I mean, if you say that word, that's probably the image that most people have in their mind. And over the years, I mean, at least since 2009, since I've been doing this, there's been a lot of work to change, not the formal structure of it, but the fluid nature of it, being able to step into a family system and creating an intervention just for that family based on the dynamics that exist, right? Not trying to fit the family into the model, but trying to change the model of the family. Yes, there's structure. Yes, there are things that we have to do. Yes, there's a best chance for success approach, but at the end of the day, we adjust to the family. Sometimes we do the surprise party, like, hey, listen, we're going over to grandma's to move a couch, and we show up and we're not moving a couch, we're doing an intervention. Sometimes we just tell them, listen, we need to get together and talk, and they show up. There's a ton of ways to do this, but it can't just be that one formal approach. So intervention, as scary as that word is so customizable, right? I've yet to walk into a family system where we couldn't create a form of intervention to help achieve the result that they want.
So let me just paraphrase some of that. I love it. First of all, you raise a really good point. We're attempting to reach people right now when this may not even be on their mind. Right. They're scrolling on their phone. Yet what I've noticed in the last 3 days of doing lives, people are just scrolling. They're not looking for anything particular. They landed here though, on my TikTok, and they're saying, oh my God, I can't believe I landed here. Right. So the ones that will land and stay that haven't already scrolled off are the ones that have somebody in their life who's struggling with addiction. And so, but I love how you used an analogy there, which is you've learned over time, the interventions have to be modified for the family. So in a basic sense, then how do we define it? I define it as a shift, a change, a dropping a rock in the water, creating something new around the conversation. I mean, go on and say, like, in a very basic sense, an intervention from like a widen the lens.
So I watched a TV show probably a month ago. It's called The Consultant. I think it's on like Netflix or something. Great show, great actor, absolutely hilarious premise. But basically what happens in that, and in a lot of situations, is that these outside consultants are hired to come in and audit a company, right? They come in and they're given executive power to make financial decisions, to hire and fire, to restructure the organization. And usually someone like that is brought in when the company's environment isn't conducive to their goals, right? Like they're trying to achieve financial success, they're trying to expand or something like that, and something within the company is preventing that from happening. So a third party is brought in, somebody who's not emotionally tied to the hiring and firing process, or someone who's not tied to the old ways of the business, right? Just the things that naturally take place over the course of however many years or decades. And, as an interventionist, I look at myself in a very similar way, because what we're doing is we're coming in and we are adjusting a family system that has gotten very comfortable doing things the way they do them, right or wrong, for better or worse. They've gotten comfortable in it because they've been trying to survive a difficult situation that they don't know how to fix. And so since they don't know how to fix it, they have to make small adjustments along the way to survive it. By the time we step in, the habits and behaviors that are ingrained in that family system, the things that they do just to survive the day, the moment, the conversation, the interaction, they're extremely unhealthy. Not that they can see it in the moment. They know something's wrong. They just don't know what, right?
Can I jump in? Yeah, because what I love about working with you is there are places that I intersect in, and it's like we've gotten comfortable doing what we've been doing. And that is the place at which I like families to consider pausing and asking the question, what have I become comfortable doing? Because I don't think we have an awareness even that we've become comfortable doing, right?
Right.
And so, yeah, you can keep going on, but I guess I would invite anybody watching this to pause. I'm always creating worksheets in my head because I'm so action oriented. I want people to have practical, actionable things to do. And one of them right now is if you love an alcoholic, if you've been anywhere near addiction for any length of time, you've become unwell. And so what can you make a list right now of the ways that you have, what was the phrase? Become comfortable. Mm-hmm. Even though you know that it's unwell. Go ahead. Well, add to that.
One of the questions I used to ask families, and this is probably where you're headed with this, is, have you allowed the unacceptable to become acceptable?
So give an example of that.
Well, it happens in abusive relationships, right? So we all go in saying never. I would never let someone treat me like that. I would never change who I am as a person just to survive a relationship. I would never put my kids in danger. I would never allow myself to get hit or hurt. I would never let someone talk to me that way. I would never let someone steal from me and still stay in a relationship. I mean, the list is pretty endless of the things that we would never let happen, right? However, all of a sudden, we're in this situation where the unacceptable has become acceptable, simply because I don't know what to do about it.
So here's a place I would ask people to in your journal. Well, if you're on this, watching this, or in the comments, if you dare, because that's where you can really get help, is being honest. What have you allowed to become acceptable? Put quotes on that. And if I wasn't holding the phone in the little stand, I would put air quotes up. Thank you. What have you allowed to become unacceptable that you swore one day, long time ago, that you never would? And sorry, not sorry. Like that's a major wake up for us. But the good news around that is you can start to create change. So that's awesome. What are we tolerating? What are we putting up with? What are we allowing? And for me as an alcoholic, I'm thinking back, I did cocaine, but I remember telling myself I'll never do crack because you're an addict if you do crack. And I also said I would never drive drunk. I mean, I actually never did do crack, thankfully, but it's always available to me should I go back. But one thing I also said I would never do is drive drunk. Of course, I was driving all kinds of drunk at the end. Thank you, Tamara. Tamara is single-handedly liking this live 900 times. Takes a village. So yep. Okay. So it's what have you allowed to become acceptable?
Well, and it's progressive, right? Just like addiction is progressive. You don't just fall into the way things are prior to an intervention, right? We call it the slow boil, and I'll I'll be gentle with the analogy, but there's this old idiom, I guess, or story about, you can put a frog in a pot of boiling water. In a pot of water, and you can slowly turn up the water to the point where eventually the frog will keep adjusting to the temperature and will ultimately be boiled alive because it won't jump out of the pot of water, right? And we feel that same steady growth, right? That same steady progression of pressure and stress that we adjust to, right? We are very adjustable. We are very adaptable as humans, right? And then especially when you love someone so much that you're willing to put up with a little bit more, a little bit more. I know this is bad, but it's better than what it could be. And we keep moving that line in the sand. And eventually we're in this pot of, boiling water. And the boiling water there's so many pieces of the chaos of addiction that are happening around us that we're just constantly in fight or flight damage control, trying to survive the relationship. And it could be something as simple as, maybe they don't live with you. Maybe they're out there and they're overdosing, or they're constantly struggling with homelessness or job loss or relationship issues or whatever it might be. Like, I said earlier, I'm in recovery, and I just want to be clear. I'm in recovery from being an absolute wild addict. This was not a casual relationship. It was my entire life. From the age of 14, when I started smoking pot with my friends, to the age of 30, when I ended up in prison for the last time, and everything that happened between. Although it was my life and it was happening to me, everyone that loved me was touched by that. Everyone that loved me was along for the ride, whether they wanted to be or not, simply by being aware of what was happening in my life and feeling like they should say something and didn't know what to say. That right there, just that one little piece is enough, right? Forget about the people I lived with and stole from and cheated on and hurt. Forget about those people, even just the people who knew me and would read about me in the paper and be like, damn, wish I could do something. I don't even know what to say. Right. And that's the impact it has all around. Now, the closer you get to that, right, kind of like a black hole, the closer you get to it, the more damage is going to be done. The closer you get to this, the more damage is going to be done. You're living with it. You're financing it. It's happening in your house. It's happening with your car. You're seeing it on a daily basis. It takes a toll. And if you don't know how to fix it, you adjust around it. And, Kate, you and I've used this, the splinter story a million times. And, I've got a piece of glass in my foot from when I was a kid. But the idea of the splinter is that, family systems are like an organism, right? And adjustments are made to address the issues that come through that family system. And so the splinter analogy is basically, your body gets a splinter. The first thing it does is sends a pain signal to your brain. Hey, get this out of us, right? If you don't take the splinter out, you don't want to listen to your brain. You can't get it out, whatever. Your body then has some other defenses that it'll employ. It'll give an infection and try to push the splinter out. Now, let's say that you don't get an infection and it doesn't push it out. The last resort that your system has is to just grow around it. You won't take it out. We can't get rid of it. So let's just grow around it and keep it moving. And, I'm sure there's plenty of people who have gotten a splinter and it's part of you now. I know I have a couple, but the situation with these, with families dealing with addiction is that they act in a very similar way, right? They'll speak up about it. They'll try to employ some sort of tactic to convince them to stop or change. And then when that doesn't work, they just find a way to grow around it, right? Well, I'll give you a perfect example. When I was, I was in my early 20s. So I want to say about 24. Yeah, 24. I was living with a friend of mine, and we were living in Peabody, and we were living out in his garage, right? So it was a fully furnished garage, no bathroom. So I don't want to tell you what we did to go to the bathroom, but like just a garage setting. And his parents lived in the house. Old Greek family, very, very old school. You work for your money, you do your thing, you go to work every day. And I remember him and I was sitting out in the garage one day, absolutely sick from opiates. We were unable to get up and go to work. And so we were just in there sick, watching TV. And his mother came in at like 11 o'clock in the morning, and she's like, "What are you doing?" And she's like, "Why aren't you going to work?" And she's like, "Are you sick?" And I mean, I don't think she knew our version of sick, which is dope sick. I said, yeah, we're sick. And she goes, well, what do you need? What do you need? You need medicine? And we were like, yeah. And she goes, what kind of medicine you need? And she goes, are you sick from the drugs? And we said, yeah. And she goes, how much money do you need for the drugs? I give you the money for the drugs, you go to work? We were like, yeah, I mean, that's how it works. If we get the money for the drugs, we will go to work. And she started from that day forward, just leaving $80 on the kitchen table each morning for us so that we could each buy $40 worth of OxyContin.
Because she needed you to work.
Well, to her, that was normal. I just want you guys to function. She's like, if you're sick from the drugs, I give you the money, you go to work, you make money, you're normal, you're okay. And I mean, that's an extreme example. But, you know, I think we do that in a lot of ways. Like, oh, you don't have your license, I'll drive you, right? Or you lost your car from a DUI, you can use mine. You know, oh, you don't have a job. Let me see if I can get you a job working with my friend. Oh, you don't have any money. I'll give you a little money until we figure this out. I mean, we all just want to normalize the situation.
You can just stay here for a few months till you get your feet back on the ground.
Exactly.
Eight years later, they're still, you know, in their bedroom, not leaving the house. Yeah, really powerful. Let me pause too and just say what we're doing. I'm Kate Duffy and this is Mike Wilson, and I'm balancing the TikTok phone on my lap, and we're on YouTube Live because we're deeply committed to getting this message out to people about what is an intervention and why would I want to do that in my family, even if my loved one doesn't want to get sober. So I do want to say thank you for liking these lives. Several people have talked about how much this is resonating. We've already covered that we're really just a frog and we adjust to the hot temperature and we do definitely die. Families, you know, I talked to a family the other day, they showed up, they were having like physical symptoms, you know, heart problems. I mean, this is where this illness takes families as well as the addict. So I want to say that if you guys share this live, more people, you're a frog. Yeah. Somebody, psychic healer Stacy, I'm definitely a frog. Me too. Thanks for your honesty around that, because that's the beginning of getting yourself better. So share this however you can so we can let more people know about it. So let's talk for a minute about, you've been doing interventions for a long time. You and I have been working together for the last few years. Let's talk a little bit about that combo,
Yeah.
kind of what we're seeing as a result of, I'll start it and then you just jump in. When I met Mike, I had started a program, Tipping Point Recovery. My mission is about educating families to understand addiction and what's really going on, because it's not what you think. And when you really understand the addiction and you start to understand the ways that you've become unwell, you can start to do things differently. Why do I want you, the family member, to do these things differently when it's your addict's problem? Because it's your problem too. And because you can. And because when they call me your addict, they don't call me back because they're addicted. And the next day they're, you know, the day they call me, they're all willing. And the next day they don't call me back. So I need you to get to them. And so I showed up, started just educating families from behind the curtain as a recovering alcoholic myself. And when I found you, Mike, you had done the same thing when you started out. So you were like deeply available for me to help me create what it was I was creating. And when we started working together around interventions is when I started to really see the power of what I'm calling long-term recovery for families, because I want families to work with me for a year at least. So what's it like to intervene on a family system? I'm going to need to cough up this frog in my throat. Thanks for that. So let's talk about how we work together, and you can go wherever you want with that.
So I think so when you step in as an interventionist, let's just say you're a family member, you make the first call. You're like, I don't know what I need. I don't know what I want. My loved one is doing this and I want it to stop. Right. Some family systems are prepared for that. But let's just say that's the truth, right? There are some family systems that have been going through it long enough. They've educated themselves enough and they feel like they're ready to embark in that journey, right? We all know we're doing something wrong. We just want someone to sit down and tell us what to do. Okay. That's rare. That's like maybe 5-10% of the phone calls that we get. The rest of them are, you know, fractured family systems. One person wants it more than the other. There's about 6 different opinions about what it's going to take for this person to get well. One family member says they just need to pull their shit together and everything's going to be fine. This one needs a job. And, just needs to, you need to kick them out and make sure they learn their lesson, or you need to take the kids away. Other people like, well, they just need to go to a meeting. If they go to a meeting every now and then, they should be fine. There's usually so many opinions about what somebody needs to do that, man, if I was that person in the situation, I'd just pick the easiest one. You know what I mean? And then I'd vilify the other 5 that were telling me to do more. And so you end up, the more common scenario is you end up with this fractured family system of varied opinions about what needs to be done. And sometimes there's more work that needs to be done before you're ready for an intervention than people are prepared to do. They call on the 11th hour. We need a result. None of us are really prepared to change, but we need a result. And so I think that's where you and I had intersected in the past, was that there's so much more work to be done before a family might even be ready for an intervention, or there's not enough time to work with them prior to sitting with their loved one, that there's so much work to do after an intervention. But either way, there's so much work to be done, right? You can't step into a family system, stir the pot to get a result and not have people impacted or affected by it.
Right.
Where that support is so important.
So that reminds me of all the different times in a family that we work with people. We work with people well before you even consider an intervention, just by educating you. And that would be free family support groups that both you and I run. That would be, a lot of free stuff on TikTok or YouTube, really just getting educated. And I really like what you just said. I think everybody can identify with, there's like 5 or 6 different opinions, right? There's 5 chiefs in the family and they all have different opinions. Don't spend any more money. You've been spending all the money. You're the enabler. You just need to kick them out. That compartmentalization that's happening, that's a system that needs some education. And for me, it's usually one person in the family that makes that call that says no one else is on board with me. And I say, that's okay. Let's start with one. Next thing you know, we have 6 people at the table. So we also work with people at that point where you're like, something needs to happen right now.
Right.
And we can get an intervention up and going within within a few days.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you've made the moves and intervened on someone within that first few days or week. And then we start to put the family back together. The other part that I love to talk about is when their person is in treatment.
Yeah.
What happens with a family that I know and is when somebody finally goes to treatment, we just go,
yeah,
oh my God, thank God they're going to come out better. And now I can rest. And I love that you and I are now working with treatment centers at that point when the family, so talk about that. Like what needs to happen for a family or for the loved one when their loved one is in treatment?
Well, I mean, I've heard the saying, you take a sick tree out of a sick forest and then get it well, and then you put it back in a sick forest, you get a sick tree still. It's like, I think like you said, when we send our loved one off to treatment, there's the sigh of relief. They're finally going to be around professionals. They're going to be around other people. And I think it's interesting because I think everybody's first thought is they want it. They just can't do it, right? Like my loved one wants to get well. They just can't figure it out. And as somebody in recovery, I'm going to tell you that's like 50-50. All right. It is a love-hate relationship. Part of me wants it, but in the beginning, I really only want it because of the current set of circumstances, the consequences, right? Once that foot is off my throat, I start to romance the idea of being able to do it again someday. Like it's a long journey to break free from such a significant emotional, psychological, and physical relationship with substances. And I don't think families fully understand the depth of that, which is why they immediately find relief that their loved one is in treatment, which they should. Okay, that should be amazing. It's a good. But the reality is if that individual has had a multi-year, multi-decade relationship with substances, you're talking about, I don't know, 6 months, a year, 18 months before they've actually developed a new way of life that doesn't include drugs and alcohol where they can find joy in it.
Right.
And I'm not scare anyone. I'm just saying like a realistic thing is that when their loved one goes to treatment, that's when they need to dig in and do the work. And I know they're so tired and they're so exhausted and they feel like it's no longer their job, but it is.
So you said, when you say they, you mean the family. And that's a point where we intersect. And so often when you're teaching in our community, I can find these places in your 1 hour, conversation with our clients that I want to go in and do another whole hour on. And you just said, I don't think people realize at that point the significance of how long it takes. And what I've learned, and I think where my superpower is, I'm a teacher. I take that concept that you're describing, and to me, it feels like a knot in the rope. And I want to loosen that knot, and I want to go in, because these things, and if people could just shift and change the way you're saying it, like, oh, I need to manage my expectations and change them. If it was that simple. So that's why I like partnerships with like you and Corey and the other people that we're working together, because we all have these superpowers. You give the family the message, and then I say, let me hold you with that knot in the rope that you just discovered, because you're like, holy shit, what do I do now? And we can unwind it and unpack it. There is so much to learn at that point. And but you also, I like that you honored their need for relief. Yep. We don't want to take that away. Take a deep breath and be relieved, and then get yourself into your own recovery program, because when they come home, they're far from recovered.
Well, the part that I want to clarify on that is that I think it's the illusion or the confusion around what they're there to get help with, right? So for instance, let's say it is alcohol, right? Pretty common one. They're drinking on a regular basis. As I said before, the assumption is that they want to stop. And so they're going to stop doing that. And I'm not saying that part of that isn't true. I'm just saying that a lot of people send their loved one to treatment thinking that once the alcohol is out of the system, once the drug is out of the system, that they're going to go back to being themselves again, right? It's the drug or it's the alcohol that's actually confusing them. And so if that's your understanding of it, and that's your expectation, is that once they get in and they get sober, things are going to be okay. That's not it. It's once they get sober, once the drugs and alcohol are out of the system, that's when they can start doing the work. And there's these different stages of recovery that, the very first one is simply physical, right? You go into treatment for 30 days, right? Let's just call it that. You go into treatment for 30 days, you're off the drugs, you're off the alcohol, you've been through the acute level of detox, et cetera. And then from that point, now it's about sleeping, eating, getting comfortable in your own skin a little bit, maybe getting some vitamin D, some sunshine, interacting with other human beings. That's all physical, right? Then the next layer of it is probably more emotional, right? The emotional instability of not having a substance to rely on. And that process take months. The psychological recovery of breaking free from the habit of creating a new version of yourself, a new identity, maybe for the younger people, not going to the bars, not going to the clubs, not going out with your friends, things like that. There's a huge process there. So when I was saying in the beginning, it can be dangerous to get your hopes up that once they're drug or alcohol free, they're going to be okay, is that all the work that comes after that. And as a support system, like I was saying before, if everybody's fractured and has a different opinion about that, right? Well, they just need to get sober and come out and get a job. They just need to stop using drugs and then come back and go to school. You might actually be standing in the way of the recovery process they need, so they can eventually come back and go to work, so they can eventually come back and go to school. And so the more you understand about this, then the more you can understand what it takes for people to get well from this. And then the more you can understand your role in that process. So there's a lot of confusion there, I think, for people who initially are just like, as soon as they stop using, it's going to be that person. They're going to be my kid or my husband or my wife again. Right.
Right. Oh, I have so much I want to say. Do you have your book handy? Grab a copy of your book, because I had a plan to give some books away, because I have a box of, all right. So I want to just have Mike show his book. It's called Loving Lions by Michael Wilson. You got to look it up, but I want to give a couple away today, Mike, because I have a box of them here at my house. So I think that the people who are here, who are commenting, are definitely eligible. For example, Tamra, and also Psychic Healer Stacy, if you're both still here, put in the chat if you would like a book. Just say yes or book, and I will connect with you to mail you a hard copy of this book, because I love giving things away. And I thought you want one for sure. Okay, Tamara, awesome. I'm going to have you email me at hello@tippingpointrecovery.com. And through the email, we'll connect to get your address, and I'll send you one. But if our psychic healer, Stacy's still here, I want to give you a book as well. Oh, we got somebody else. All right. Now we're going to get you interacting to gain a book. I will give these books that I just said, but now I'm going to challenge you. Put in a question or an honest disclosure about yourself that it can be the beginning for you of your own recovery. So it's G Mellis. Put in the comments something that you've learned today. Like, what can you own? Mike, you can help me too. But what I'm trying to do is I want to give people an opportunity to, right? I'm not forcing anyone, but I want someone to take an opportunity to say, this is me.
Right.
This was new for me. Because when I went into AA, I was told I needed to say, I'm struggling, I need some help, right? Get honest about something. So what can you get honest? Do you have another way that we can say that to people watching?
Well, I mean, I always look at the mentality of people whose lives don't change, which is that they're constantly looking at the things that other people are doing, the things that are happening to them. They're always focusing on their bad luck, misfortune, or the faults of others to justify the difficulties that they're having. And so, when I sit down with families, I'm obviously trying to empower them. So, it's through a series of multiple choice suggestions that I give them an opportunity to find something that they do have control over, that they could adjust, that might improve life, whether it's a matter of perspective, whether it's a matter of controlling resources, whether it's a matter of, how they communicate, things they bring up or don't bring up, trying to empower them. Right. And so they need to find something to own that they can do to improve their situation so they don't feel so hopeless or helpless or lost.
Thank you. She did it. My hubby is rocking his recovery. Oh, this is all the more reason for you to have a path. It just touches my heart. I'm still in the addiction dance. I need a new perspective. Oh, you are in the right place. You're getting a book, sister. That's all I mean. That's all I mean. It's more beneficial for you to do what you just did. Because of past traumas, I'm a mama of children that have struggled with addictions. Thank you, dear. I'm going to send you guys both books. Just email me at hello@tippingpointrecovery.com. Send me your, name and the best mailing address, and I'll get you a book. So we could talk for another maybe 15 minutes, Mike. What do we want people to understand about addiction? I mean, first of all, thanks for your patience if you're still sitting here and the glitching getting us on live. Go to Sweets Wilson. We're going to change your TikTok, Mike. We're going to get you as an influencer pretty quick because it's so important for us to be able to have these conversations on the different platforms, but YouTube is great also. Yeah. Talk about for a minute, because I was actually just reviewing the recordings in our library of calls that you do with our families. Mm-hmm. And the conversation, this comes up a lot. There are people here watching. They're the only one in their family that wants to join or wants to do an intervention. And I call it how to get others to the table. But you had a great response in the recording I was looking at for Julie. Can you share what advice do you have for people who are they're the only ones in their family that believe there's a better way? Right. Like their spouse or their other kids?
Well, I mean, there's a certain amount of recruiting that can be done. But obviously, if you're falling short on that and people aren't getting on board, I think it becomes a matter of self-preservation and a mix of leading by example, right? That a lot of times that person becomes a villain within the family system while everybody else needs to learn their own lesson. If I've been the one and maybe it's my fault if I've been the one who's been constantly feeding this scenario, and then I decide I don't want to anymore, right? I took on the responsibility and I burnt myself out doing it, and I came to terms a lot faster than anyone else did that I can't do this anymore because it's bothering me. But there's 4 or 5 other family members who haven't tried yet, right? It's almost like everybody needs to take their shot at it first before collectively they can admit it doesn't work, right? I mean, what uncle or aunt hasn't said, let him come stay with me? Or what grandparent has been like, okay, obviously you guys don't know what you're doing as parents. Why don't we take it over and see what we can do? I mean, there's a lot of these scenarios where other family members need to take a stab at it, see for themselves before they can get on board with everybody else. Right. That's the natural course of it, right? The other version is that we do get a lot of people who call and say, I'm the only one, And, instead of framing it around an intervention, which everybody might not be comfortable doing, we can frame it around a family conversation. All right. And that's where we do a lot of the front end work before we ever even intervene, or that's where you come in, Kate. And that's where a lot of this, we'll just ask them if they'd be willing to share their version of it. You know what I mean? Would they even be open to listening to? And some may be, some may not be, but there is a certain amount of recruiting and language changing that we can use to get people to the table.
That's right.
The one thing you want to make sure you do is that you hold your own lines, even if that includes with other family members.
I would say probably more than 50% of the people that show up at Tipping Point Recovery are a solo person in their family wanting to make a change. And they do come in pretty frustrated that the others in their family are, making them feel bad for the efforts they're trying to take. And it is true that the old way was, if you were doing something for someone in your family that has addictions, you're an enabler and you're doing the wrong thing. But so we're not teaching enabling, we're teaching unenabling, we're teaching new ways to have conversations. Somebody's asking if we work out of state. Yeah, we work in all states because we're fully virtual. We fly to you if we're intervening for the actual intervention day, but everything we do is over Zoom. So that's what's so amazing. We're out of it. We've done Canada. We're speaking to somebody in the Virgin Islands right now. So it really is anywhere. The other piece of this that I really like, for that one person that's contacting us saying no one else in my family is on board, you're feeling pretty alone, and we can empathize with that. When you come into our community, you're suddenly not alone. You're looking at a screen of 15 other people, right? Often single people in their Zoom screen. But then you start seeing the 2 and 3 people in the Zoom screen, because we are really good at getting others to the table. And Mike, you also have helped our families understand going to get your spouse to get on board with you is kind of like going to get your alcoholic to change.
Right.
The tools we use are really similar.
Yeah.
For you to come in alone is okay. It takes is one person, one conversation, to start the change. So, all right. And then let's talk a little bit about, and if there's anybody new that's just joining, we do have one more book giveaway. I wanted to give away 3. So how can we give away a book? I don't know. I got to think about that for a second, but I want to talk about, so this is Mike Wilson and I'm Kate Duffy, and we're talking about intervention, and really it's about family system intervention, because this is a family system problem. I want to talk about the person comes home from treatment and how the statistics are so high that that's a really big time of relapse. And so how can we help families? How do we help families at that point when the person calls and they say, this is my favorite service of all that we offer, because to me, it's the biggest bang for the buck in the moment. Hey, I'm better. I'm ready. It's time to leave. They want to come home, and you think, I don't want them to come home. Tell people how we help them at that point. What are we doing at that time?
Usually what we do is we try to focus on the family's readiness instead of their loved one's readiness. So instead of saying, you're not ready to come home, you haven't been in treatment long enough, you need to stay longer, it's, we're not ready to have you home. We're still struggling and reeling from what just happened. We need more time. If you want to leave, that's fine, but you can't come back here because we're still healing from the damage that was done. This is about us. You're in treatment for you. You can leave whenever you want. We would recommend that you stay longer, but regardless of your decision to stay, we're not comfortable putting ourselves back in that fire just yet. And so we have some work to do, and we're going to focus on our part right now. You should focus on yours. And they don't have to. But again, that's about owning your part of this, right? Simply because they want to leave early or they think they're done or ready doesn't necessarily mean it's true. And it doesn't mean you should compromise or second guess the way that you've been protecting yourself and your newfound peace simply because they say they're done on their time.
Did you guys catch that? Now, I wish Mike could repeat that entire thing, but because we have this on record, I will go back and look at that entire thing, because how I create my curriculum is based on taking what he just said and then breaking it down into like a 4-part workshop for you, because that's what we need. We need baby steps in this thing. So I'm seeing several people wanting a book, and here's what I'm going to tell you. I'm going to give you some to-dos right now. You got to like this live. You got to make sure you're following me, because we're going to be doing a lot more of these. And you want to be alerted when I'm going live. So do that. Follow Sweets Wilson which is Mike, Sweets, plural, Wilson, here on TikTok, which is his personal TikTok, but we're going to get him able to go live.
Dog videos, they're cute.
Yeah, dog videos. There was a turkey one in there too.
There's of me fighting with the turkey. Yep.
That was,
enjoyed
I loved it. I couldn't wait to see, I wanted to see you run and the turkey chasing you. So go follow Mike there. And then around the book, because someone just said their loved one's in treatment and they want to stop enabling. So yes, user, I want you to have a book as well. You're going to email me and there's few enough people here that I'll give more books. hello@tippingpointrecovery.com. That's how I'm going to correspond with you to get you a book. So send me an email. It's on you, because if I had to follow up with you, I would not know who you were, and then you would get your book. So it's on you. Email me there. And yes, you're right on track when you say, my son's in treatment now. I need tips on how to be supportive, but not an enabler. And here's just what I want to say to you. I want first for you to give yourself grace, because you've been enabling or loving that way your whole life. It's only how you've always loved. If it has negative connotation to you, that word, don't use it. And I want you to just really lean in to finding a community and finding ways to learn how to unlearn the ways that, because you're right, it's not helpful. Yes, Michael Wilson. Exactly. I love seeing that. Michael Wilson, that's him. Loving Lions. I'll send you a free book, or you can just go on Amazon and order it. But yeah, I want you to think of it this way. When people used to tell me, just stop drinking, I just felt like a piece of crap and I couldn't. And so when anyone tells you just stop enabling, you probably feel like a piece of crap and that you just can't. So if someone says to you, just stop enabling, you can say, hey, I'm working on that. I'm definitely going to, because you can completely change your ways around that and learn how to love your loved one unconditionally and learn how to support them conditionally. So Mike, a couple more minutes. What else do we want to say?
I get something to add to that might be helpful. I'm 46 years old. I have 2 adult children, 21 and 25. And just recently, last year, way too late, I learned a really cool parenting tool that I had never used, which was that, when your kids are young and they're struggling with something, as Kate was just mentioning, one of the worst things that you can do is come in and say, it's easy, just do it this way, because it implies that they're stupid and they don't know any better. They should be smarter and they're not. There's all these implications behind that. And I feel like it's the same, like you were just saying, when someone comes in and they're like, well, if you just stop doing this, and if you just stop doing that, as though you hadn't thought of that before.
Right.
If it wasn't possible, you wouldn't have already done it. Right. Like, there's a lot that's implied behind that word enabling, which is why I don't like to use it. Kate just referenced the fact that, we love our family members the best way we know how. We provide support and direction in any other situation. This one's no different. When our loved ones struggle, we offer to help because we assume that they want to fix that problem. But once we come to terms with the fact that they're not trying to fix the problem that they're in, and we're just in it with them, that's when we need to protect ourselves, right? That's when we need to take a step back. And, another thing I learned way too late as an adult is that, we need to treat ourselves the way that we would treat a small child or your dog. Okay. Be patient, be loving, be forgiving, right? When a child spills milk, our first thing is, oh, Jesus, there's milk on the floor. It's like, oh my God, are you okay? Right. First time you make a mistake and do something, you should do the same thing. Step back. Jesus, am I okay? Did I hurt myself here? What did I do? And you need to be patient and forgiving as you try to make these changes. And, the people advising you or the people in your circle who are giving you strength are people that need to be patient with you, understanding. And so if you do make a mistake, if you do go back and do something you weren't supposed to do, if you do find yourself confused about a situation, it's okay. It really, like you said, you've been doing it so long. I mean, be forgiving, be patient, be kind to yourself. But as far as protection, I use that word and people are like, I don't have to protect myself from this person because they think physical. Think emotional, right? Think about how useful you are to that person if you're emotionally compromised. If you yourself are a mess, of what use are you to them other than just money or support or services? If you want to be there for them in their time of need, then you need to take a step back, take a breath, build yourself up as a strong support system so that when they need you and they lean on you, you don't both fall.
So powerful. And here's another thing I want to give people after that segue or rant maybe, or compilation of words. I want, monologue. I love it. Yeah, because it didn't feel like a rant. It was perfect. I want people who are here right now to consider making today your sobriety date. I like families to have a sobriety date. And so, of course, you're not sober from alcohol or drugs right now if you're a family member, because you don't need to be. If you do, of course, that can also be your sobriety date. But what if today was the first day that you decided you are going to get well, you are going to embrace a family path to recovery, and you bought Mike's book, or I mailed it to you for free, and you just decided, because what Mike was talking about is if you make a mistake or if you do something enabling tomorrow, you're going to watch. I call it a relapse. If you pick a sobriety date and then you catch that you relapse, you're going to watch how damn hard this all is. And you're going to have more grace for yourself, and you're going to have more grace for your loved one. That's the goal here, is every day to lean a little more into being graceful and gentle with yourself, because this is recovery right now, by the way. If you're sitting here and all kinds of feelings are stirring up, that's what recovery is. Recovery isn't snap your fingers and everything's over. Recovery is leaning in, and recovery is messy. And so I'm just so proud of all of you that have stayed. There's this nice small group here. They're all like engaged and chatting. And of course, on YouTube, I can't see comments. I'm sure I'm going to get maybe a dozen emails from YouTube looking for like free books, which is fine. If you want to talk to Mike or I on our website, tippingpointrecovery.com, there's a let's chat button. You can book a free 30-minute time to chat about your specific situation. If you want to learn more about your own, what we would advise or what service we might recommend for you, to see if an intervention is right for you, please do that. So Mike, I think we did pretty good considering we didn't figure out exactly how to go live, but what's that?
I said, that's why we started early.
Yeah, perfect. Tipping Point continues to be our rock. Oh, Cindy Gregoire is on the live. Thanks, Cindy. Our family is healing. Thank you, Kate and Mike. I'm so happy to see you here. Our clients are joining us. So grateful to see you here, Cindy. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. We'll do it again, I'm sure. And
I want to get on TikTok live. Now I feel like I have to make some videos and up your
presence. Well, Mike,
TikTok live, I mean.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'll help you, because I created a couple of 1-minute clips from some of the groups you do with our families. It's just so beautiful to me. I could spend all day long just looking at these little nuggets that we teach, because you and I both have this desire to have this app, a pocket guide for families. So, I mean, that's where we're going, guys. So I just also want to say that if you're in this conversation with us right now, you're helping us in the future build these little tangible nuggets, because that's my mission, is getting this information in the hands of as many people as possible. We are suffering, and it's out of control. But this moment right now that we're just sitting in, this is a recovery conversation. So beautiful. Over the years, it's always about the money, but I don't see that here. So thank you. Oh, you're so welcome. Let me just say too, some of these services do cost. And a lot of it is free that we can give away. And here's the distinction. If you can take what we teach and work it and join Al-Anon, you can do this for free. You got to roll up your sleeves, and you got to pick a sobriety date, and you got to read books and lean in, but we're here for you if you decide you want more. So that's really the line. We're here for you if you need more, but yes, I want to give as much away for free for those that are ready to like DIY, lean in. Yeah, no, we do care. Thank you. She's talking about recovery places that don't really care. We care. We care so much. Mike, thank you so much for being with me and these beautiful people. And we'll do it again.
It was fun.
Oh, and go like Sweets Wilson. I can't wait to see if you got a few more followers from this.
I will let you know.
All right. Thanks. Bye, everybody.